Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 2 Bob. The time now is 5 to 2 in the afternoon. It's a relatively cool day here in Brisbane. It's just slightly below normal in temperature wise, but still it's a beautiful time of year. It's nice and cool, it's not too hot, and so I'm just relaxing here on a Saturday afternoon. Now today's topic is aliens and Area 51. Aliens and Area 51. One of the great mysteries of life is whether there are aliens or not. Do aliens exist? And when I talk about aliens, I talk about extraterrestrials. I'm talking about extraterrestrials to our planet Earth. Are there aliens out there? It's one of the great questions of life, isn't it? I propose that one of the things that we can investigate as a prerequisite into answering this question is Area 51. Area 51 is highly synonymous with the issue of aliens, isn't it? Now, you've all heard about it. But for those who haven't, Area 51 is basically a government site in the Nevada desert, in the United States. It's a highly secretive site, as we all know, and it's well guarded. Now, about 30 years ago, I was watching a documentary on television, and this regarded a young technician by the name of Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar was invited by the government, or state government or federal government, I'm not exactly sure, but invited by some government body to back engineer so-called alien spacecraft at the Area 51 site. So he was flown out every day and did his job accordingly. Now I submit to you, Bob Lazar was simply used like a character in a play. Now the thing we're meant to believe, we're supposed to believe that aliens, extraterrestrials, highly advanced extraterrestrials, travelled halfway across the universe and crashed into the Nevada desert. If you believe that, I've got some lakeside properties on the moon I want to sell you. It's just straight out ridiculous on the spot. So I think it's safe to assume that what he was there to back engineer wasn't actually alien spacecraft. Think about it. Aliens, what they just forgot how to fly there. They forgot about their technology, and they need someone from Earth to actually explain to them how they created the spacecraft. Come on, it's an absolute joke. So I think it's obvious to me, and it should be obvious to you, that the actual spacecraft is not actual alien spacecraft. It's an example of exotic technologies. An exotic technology is something for which is not normal, and it operates abnormally with respect to what's actually out there. Like, we understand how an aeroplane works, and a helicopter works, how a boat works, how a car works. So an exotic technology is something, or a vehicle, that operates outside the normal conditions. For example, I've heard about anti-gravity devices. I've heard about that. I don't know how real they are, but I've heard about that. And so I believe Area 51 is a testing ground for exotic technologies. Now, what evidence is there for the existence of exotic technologies? Well, I'm going to give you two pieces of evidence. I saw a YouTube video not that long ago, a while ago, but I'm trying to remember the exact details, but it was someone going to walk along the footpath, some path, and he looked up in the sky and he saw three aircraft. Now, the two aircraft on the side were fighter jets that you've seen before. Now, the aircraft in the middle was what's typically sought after as a flying saucer. Now, you've seen these in the movies. So you have these three aircraft that are flying in formation, and you can see them. This thing was flying in the middle of two jet aircraft. So it should be obvious that it's not alien, it's just an example of something which is built by us, by like some government or some contracting agency. And it's just a test, and it's flying next to... what are these two aircraft doing? Are they, you've entered restricted airspace, now leave this Earth. Obviously this flying saucer was created here on Earth. Now, it's a part of our arsenal of aircraft, but it's an example of exotic technologies. It's not normal. It's built by us to serve some other purpose. Now, I'm not sure what that purpose is. Now, that's number one. Now, number two, there's a helicopter sightseeing tour just above New York City, exactly a year before the 9/11 attacks. So this occurred around September 2000. Now, in this helicopter tour, one of the tourists, they looked either to the left, I can't remember whether it was I think it's to the left, and they saw this flying saucer thing in the distance. It was just hovering there. And all of a sudden, it just went, pew! I mean, it flew at a rate of knots. And then it was stationary there in front of them. So it went to the left, then to the front of them, in front of this helicopter. So the helicopter was obviously hovering in the air above New York City. And then all of a sudden, this thing just went, pew! And it flew out of sight. I mean, this thing obviously wasn't a plane, obviously wasn't a helicopter. This thing flew at a rate of knots. It was unbelievably fast. So, two pieces of evidence. So, Area 51 is simply a testing ground for exotic technologies. So what's that got to do with Bob Lazar, who I mentioned earlier? The purpose of Bob Lazar's visit, in my humble opinion, was to fool him into thinking that aliens are real, and therefore, when he came out, his job was to infect the world with lies, so to speak. So his job was to basically tell people, yes, there are aliens in existence, but also he also proposed something else. It's called the bending of the space-time thing. So imagine a piece of paper. So A and B, two dots on a piece of paper, right? So A and B this piece of paper represents the universe. So A and B, you bend the piece of paper. To go from A to B, it's just too far for us to travel there. It's called interstellar travel. Interstellar travel is just too far for us. So what Bob Lazar proposed, see the aliens, they get here, they bend the space-time continuum, and that's what we're told to believe. So you have the piece of paper and you bend it. So point A and point B are together, and so that the distance is relatively short, and that's how they travel these enormous distances. And that's what we're told to believe. Again, there is no space-time continuum. If we want to travel anywhere in the universe, we've got to do it the hard way. It's as simple as that. Now, as far as interstellar travel is concerned, it's obviously out of our bounds. Even with the exotic technologies that we've created, maybe it's anti-gravity, I don't know what it is. But this thing above New York City, September 2000, this thing, it absolutely flew at a rate of knots. It left behind some kind of discharge. Some have speculated it's a corona discharge. I don't know exactly what it is, but it definitely wasn't exhaust. It was the effect. It could travel so fast. It made some. It was its impact it made with the air. It's unbelievable, this thing. So Bob Lazar, he legitimized this kind of alien belief. Now, why would the government do this? Why would Bob Lazar be used like this? Let's talk about globalism. What is globalism? Well, a globalist is simply anyone that is willing to contribute to the enforcement of some kind of global vision. Now think about it. Think of the world we live in now. The world we live in is passed into about 250 countries. It's very similar to the number of bones in the human body. Every bone serves a purpose, in the same way that every country serves a purpose. Every country represents an axiom of security for the overall health of the world's climate. And I'll talk about climate, I'll talk about social climate. And the climate change thing, I'll talk about that later on in a different post. That's another scam we're going to deal with by these globalists. Now, getting back to the issue of globalists. A globalist doesn't have to be mega rich. A globalist is just anyone up here who thinks that nationalism isn't really all that important. So they're willing to submit to any kind of plan to contribute to some kind of global vision. Now, I submit to you that any real sense of global vision, it can't possibly work, because the purpose of every country is to contribute to the world in its own kind of personal light. And if you it's like believing that instead of having 250 bones in the body, you have one bone in the body. You break that one bone and it's all over. But if you break a bone in your body, for example, a bone in your leg, you still got all the other bones in your body. And so I suspect the whole alien thing is a hoax. It's really perpetrated by those who are trying to bring humanity towards some kind of global vision. And globalism is just simply a doorway to being dominated in a nefarious way. It's every country on this earth. Now, I'm an Australian, so I believe Australia has a place in protecting the world's social climate from deteriorating. And Australia simply does its job. Now, the UK does its job. France does its job, where the Olympics are currently being held. America does its job. Brazil does its job. And all the other countries I forgot to mention, Japan, Taiwan, China, even North Korea to a much lesser extent, they all do their job. They all do the job in playing a role in preserving the fabric of our humanity. Now, what's globalism? Globalism threatens to tear down that fabric, right? Doesn't matter what it is, the United Nations, the World Health Organization. These are all organizations that are being used to tear down our sense of nationalism, and therefore tear down our sense of humanity. We have to say no to it, okay? So if you look at what's happening recently, this is happening more recently. People are observing strange phenomena. You have flying saucers. People are still seeing the flying saucers, but they're seeing like weird lights. They're hearing weird sounds. This is becoming more and more frequent now. Now, what do I think is really going on? I think this technology is just being ramped up a bit by those that operate Area 51, as well as other installations, either known or unknown to us. Every time you hear something like a strange noise or a flying saucer, I guarantee it's nothing more than a precursor to promote globalism over nationalism. All right? The best thing you can do is contribute to your life, contribute to your family, and by contributing to your family, you contribute to your work, then contribute to your local environment. And by contributing to your local environment, you contribute to your state environment. And by contributing to your state environment, you contribute to your federal environment or national environment. And that's as far as it goes. And that's as far as it ever should go. Okay. So, in my humble opinion, extraterrestrials do not exist. I can't prove that conclusively. I'm not here to spout either way. That's just my personal view. Again, I'm just giving my two bob on this particular issue. So, let me just summarise my position. Area 51 is nothing more than a testing site for exotic technologies. So Bob Lazar was employed by the government to back engineer alien technology. But in reality, he's just a character in a play. He was fooled. Now, I have nothing against Bob Lazar. He's not a bad person. He was just fooled. And I would have been fooled too, to be honest. I mean, I was watching that video 30 years ago and I believed everything he said. I believed it for decades afterwards. So he's not gullible, he's not stupid. And he's up against something of a highly sophisticated nature. So Bob Lazar was simply just put there to engineer something which has already been engineered. Obviously, it's been created in advance by highly intelligent people. And that's all there is to it. Now, I gave you two examples. This guy walking in through the park, who looked up in the air and he saw two fighter jets on the outside and a flying saucer in the middle, and they flew in formation. That's one example. Another example is the helicopter sightseeing tour just above New York City, September 2000. So one of the tourists, they looked to the side, they saw this strange flying saucer object just hovering there in the sky, and all of a sudden he just flew, went from one location. It was unbelievably quick. I watched the video, I just thought, wow, I'm pretty sure I know what's going on now. So anyway, thank you for watching. That's just my two bob. You just give me my two bob on a particular quirky issue like this, aliens and Area 51. And so Bob Lazar, he's not a bad person. He's just, I hope he can just wake up one day and just say he was just taken for a ride, and that's all it was. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed the video, that's good. If you didn't, that's okay. I apologise for wasting your time. Anyway, I bid you farewell. Bye-bye now.